On today's show, we talk news. We talk who is our favorite hero. We talk beer. Speaking of, somebody grab me a beer. It all starts right now.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to another issue of Hops Geek News. This is issue number 3. We are here. We got some exciting stuff to talk about today. But first, as always, there's some wonderful sounds of the cracking of the beers happening in the background. I am kicking it off today with a little flashback. I figured
Hey.
this fit today's theme. It's a 8.5 Imperial Milk Stout from Bearded Iris out in Nashville. I got this in a pretty sweet beer trade with some friends of ours. But yeah, so I'm drinking a nice Imperial Milk Stout. It's got coconut, cacao, lactose, and vanilla. And this baby is like dark as night. I was pouring it and I thought I was drinking straight milk or something.
Wow.
Um, it's wicked strong. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't eat dinner, so I don't know if I want to necessarily dive too heavily into this, but I said, screw it, let's just do it.
You're going to be a
But
lot of fun by the end.
I know by the end we're done talking. I'm like, well, let me tell you why the Flash is
His,
gonna beat Superman in any battle ever. And, just listen up, man.
All right. Well, happy mommy here. I just opened a double IPA, not to shock anybody, from Civil Society Brewing. It's called Light Burst. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it kind of looks like the Star Wars when you're in hyperspeed. So of course I'm pairing it with my the child Mandalorian glass. I got a bit excited. There's a bit too much head there, but
That's season 2. Is head never a bad thing, but season 2, that's a spoiler on that glass. Now that we know he's gonna team
right.
with the Mando and he's gonna go ahead and he's gonna start kicking everybody in space's ass. Hopefully,
There
we
you
can be
go.
so blessed,
Mm.
which we'll get to in a minute. But yeah, how is that beer? I know you like to dive into the double IPAs and all that whatnot.
It's delicious. It's got a little bit of like citrus at the end kind of taste. But it's only 7.8%, so it's not too high. But I mean, I've had so many IPAs at this point from Civil Society. Thanks to Corona, we've actually been getting their beer because they're about 2 hours south of here, maybe 2.5. So we normally don't get their beer. They don't really distribute. But since they have all these kegs and they're not serving as much on site, they've been sending it to GB Bottle Shop in Orlando. And every time they get a new one, I race. I can actually order it online and then drive up there, so it's perfect. So I
That's
know it's going to
so
be there.
that is interesting in Florida because it's so massive. Like, is there certain bubbles that you get beer in? So like there's the Orlando bubble and Tampa bubble that they probably lump together because they're actually what, like an hour drive away or something like that.
Yeah, it is a bit like a bubble like that, but I wouldn't bubble Orlando and Tampa together because we're probably an hour and a half away. But because you have to take I-4, it could be 5 hours away. It could be an hour and a half
Oh,
away. So
traffic.
yeah, we don't go to Tampa as much as I'd like because of that. But you have the big ones, like Tampa Bay Beer Company. It's obviously Cigar City distributes all over Florida. So you have the big ones, but for the most part, a lot of them don't do too much distribution. But because of Corona, we've been getting more. Like we've been getting a lot of tripping animals up here too, which was unheard of before this.
Yeah.
So
I
silver,
noticed that too. Ooh, little tripping animals. I still like that beer that we had by them. It was a really good beer. I wouldn't be opposed to, even though it didn't work out, I would still like to drink more beer by them to kind of experiment some more just because I love their can art so much.
yeah.
But that's kind of like, so I was actually talking to somebody the other day. It was actually Brad, one of our Patreon members. I was talking to him about the differences. He was describing all these beers in Nashville and how they're just throwing in all sorts of flavors. And I kind of thought, and I was like, in Idaho, we don't actually really have too many beers that are they're flavorful, but like the stouts that you see on the East Coast, you have all sorts of crazy flavors. Like Pontoon's doing their
Hmm.
Black It's Beautiful. It's got pecans, it's got chocolate, it's got a bunch of other things. Whereas I was kind of looking at the Black is Beautifuls that released in Idaho, and there's one that's really, really good that I loved from Edge Brewing, which is an oatmeal stout, and it's just vanilla chocolate. It tastes amazing. But I haven't seen a lot of those breweries that have experimented with all the different flavors, even in IPAs necessarily. So I kind of was thinking, I guess I never thought about it. It's more of an East Coast thing, perhaps, that
Huh.
all the flavors they kind of, because what I've seen on the West Coast is like you got your West Coast IPAs, you have your lagers, sure, you got your sours. They experiment a lot with sours, but
Hmm.
if you're drinking a stout, it's maybe has a couple ingredients, whereas a lot of the East Coast breweries, especially, I have tried one from Definitive. They're like my favorite Portland, Maine brewery. They have it tastes just like a cookie, but they got like chocolate cookies, marshmallows, like whatever else in there. And
Ooh.
yeah, it's just kind of one of those random things I was thinking about when I was talking to him. Is yeah, the West Coast is an experiment, at least to my knowledge. If anybody happens to listen to this and they're like, well, no, this brewery does all sorts of flavors,
Right.
please send them my way because I love experiment. I'm in an experimental phase of my life. Okay,
Right. Well, I'm
I
trying to think because, yeah, I've been to California. I've been to a lot of breweries in California, and I can't think of any that were too out there. But yeah, we had a Black is Beautiful Bowegan's brewery added, I think it was jalapenos to it. I haven't gotten it, and I've been trying to get to it. But jalapeno beer is really
ew,
good.
I
It was something spicy.
can't do spicy. Like my horror story is always when I was at the Maui Brewing Company in Hawaii, and I was sitting there, and the guy was like, "Look, this beer, this is going to be amazing. This is one of the best beers we have." And he didn't tell me what it was, and I drank it, and I can't do spicy foods. I'm weak. Say what you will, but I thought I was going to die, and it was the most disgusting thing ever. And now I was like, anytime I see a peppers, I have one sitting in my fridge. My friend sent me from Nebraska. It's like a jalapeno, and I'm like, "Ah, I really appreciate the beer, but I don't know if I'm gonna drink it because it's spicy. So that might be one I have to get to you because
There
I'm
you
not gonna
go.
drink it. I don't do spicy beers. So yeah, I was just kind of thinking that was kind of weird. West Coast, maybe I start trying to get in some of these breweries' ears in Boise and be like, hey, you should really try this flavorful stuff. Kind
Right.
of bring the crowd out, gets your taste buds going.
Yeah, we definitely
So
have some fun ones around here. There's one brewery, 1010, does every Christmas now. They do this beer and they actually put teeny tiny marshmallows on top, and it's
oh
delicious.
hell yeah. That makes me think of like a
So,
gingerbread house. Like you just have a nice tower, like you know how most those towns have a water tower. Well, I'm gonna build a gingerbread house and it's just gonna be a cup of like a pint glass of beer with little marshmallows around it, and this is what
mm,
feeds this little gingerbread town.
that sounds delicious.
Yeah,
Oh,
speaking of, man, it's I start seeing all the pumpkin beers coming out now. So you've got like Southern Tier has released 4 or 5 of their variations of the pumpkin. I'm eagerly awaiting, really hoping that there's some pumpkin variations coming out this way soon. I actually had my mom, so obviously I'm a fiend for Dunkin' Donuts, even though it's trash. But growing up in New England, there's a Dunkin' Donuts in every street corner. So I texted her today. I was like, literally, what do I have to do to get the pumpkin stuff that they put in the coffees? She was like, I've actually hit up a couple of my friends, and they're getting it like next week, and they're gonna give me a whole like giant thing full, and she's
the
gonna send me
syrup.
this giant thing of pumpkin syrup, and I'm like, oh god, hell yes, because I've literally been tweeting at Dunkin' Donuts every day for the last 2 weeks. I've been in their DMs. They haven't responded yet. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful we can come to an understanding, but I've been talking to them about bringing up Dunkin' Donuts out here, so maybe one day.
I can't believe you don't have one.
I've never lived a place without Dunkin' Donuts, and everybody's listening is gonna have to listen to me just cry about it as we enter fall season. It's
Ugh.
not great. I will contend that Dunkin' Donuts, yeah, you're not going there for craft wonderful coffees, but I'm going there in like the fall and middle of winter just for that oomph I need to get my day going. I'm drinking a nice coffee when it's negative 13 degrees outside.
Oh, see, I'll drink a hot coffee when it's 100 degrees outside.
Yeah,
I had a, yeah,
I don't drink
yeah.
the hot coffee so much.
No, I had a cafe con leche in the backyard this morning. It was lovely.
She's out there sweating, sweat pouring out. She's like, it's so good.
No, I wasn't even. I was in the shade. It was lovely, lovely morning. Well, my mom came over for a coffee, and we were trying to socially distance. So
Oh
she brought some
yes.
Cuban coffee over, and we stayed 10 feet apart and drank our coffee outside.
See, we're trying socially distance. It's that's what we've been trying to do, but I guess my work has decided that we're kind of just over the socially distance. So like you're going back to the 5 day a week work schedule starting next week, and it's
Oh, fun
nice, but
times.
I got used to the 1 week on, 1 week off. I had so much time to go around my house, and I'm like, hey, it's a Wednesday. I got this free time. Let's just go make a beer run or something like that. So I'm not going to be able to do my weekday beer runs anymore unless I make an excuse to like have an appointment out in Boise or something like that.
Isn't that what lunch breaks are for? Beer runs?
We don't get lunch breaks. What is a lunch break? So whenever there's flying, I work in the part that directs where all the fuel goes for flying, and so we're all the flying just constantly going on, and we're 45 minutes from Boise anyway. So if I get a lunch break, it might be 20 minutes to go grab it and then eat at my desk. That's kind of how that goes. One day,
Yeah,
I'm gonna be somebody one day. I'm gonna have lunch breaks, and it's gonna be glorious.
one day. You gotta have goals.
Yeah,
So,
life.
Mash, what have you been reading or watching this week?
Ooh, ooh. So for number one, I read Doom Patrol 2016 run,
Oh, you
issue
read
one.
it.
I did. So, like I said, I really like to dive into whatever I watch. I want to read about it. So I read that. Pretty different from the show, of course. Nothing's ever gonna be. But I'm actually really into it. You kind of get more background on the characters.
Oh shit.
Oh wow! If anybody saw that, Spider-Man came crashing down. They unveiled a Canadian flag
Is
behind me.
Spidey
Yes,
okay?
I have a Miles Morales painting that if you ever listen to Hop Heroes, I know we plug them a lot, but it's because those are some of like the best dudes that we've ever had the pleasure of talking to. Yeah, JR is a really good artist, and I was sent that Miles Morales painting that just came tumbling down. But yeah,
Attacked
going back,
you.
yeah, I was just viciously attacked. Why aren't you reading Spider-Man? I'm sorry, man. I'll get to it. I don't know.
Not
But
even or MCU or Marvel.
yeah, it's like, look, I'm gonna get to it. I promise. But in addition, speaking of that painting, they also sent me Batman: Curse of the White Knight, which I
Ooh.
haven't read before. The artwork was pretty good. It's kind of about Joker escaping from Arkham as he always does, but at the end they kind of unveil Azrael, who, if you've read any Batman comics, Azrael takes over for Batman when he gets his back broken by Bruce Wayne. He obviously isn't doing that in this iteration, at least right now. So he kind of like thinks God's talking to him, and he has to go fight Batman, is what it's setting up to. So I read that, and very, very good, pretty gory. It's not your traditional Batman stories, but I can't recommend it enough. And those guys, they hooked me up with a pretty good comic. So what about you? What
Nice.
do we got? Anything good that you're reading this week?
Well, as far as reading, I haven't done too much reading. I read The Brewing Cloud that we got when we talked to Hop Culture.
Yes,
I know you read that as
yes,
well.
I
So if
did.
anybody doesn't follow Hop Culture Mag and you like beer, you got to follow them. This book was hilarious. It's a very quick, easy read. It's like 100 pages. It's from the same. Kenny, the author, basically says that this book is like if the author from Willy Wonka was drinking beer and drank too much. And there's silly little stories about this imaginary place called the Brewing Cloud. A lot of fun beer terms that maybe the average person wouldn't know. But it's really good, really fun, really quick read. I think it was like $10. And if you order it directly from the website, it puts fun little personal messages in there, or you can get it on Amazon. But
Yes.
so that's the only thing I read this week, other than my recent issue of Oblivion Song. But I have been watching Doom Patrol, and I did finish. I watched Umbrella Academy in 3 days, as 3 nights of not sleeping much, so I could finish Umbrella Academy. Second
I haven't
season,
started watching that yet. How is it?
it was very good. I liked it more than the first season, and in fact, it made me want to go back and rewatch the first season because there were times I was, wait,
Mm.
what happened? Because I binged it then too, and I've never read any of them, so I had no background story. But Hops Heroes, I want to listen to their recent podcast because they actually are doing something on it, and I know the one guy, I believe it's JR, like knows his comic book shit, so he's I think going to do a
Yes.
breakdown on that. So I'm looking forward to listening to that.
I think he works at I think he works at Action Comics, or they do something with Action Comics there.
Yeah, they plug one a
So
lot.
yeah, so they plug them. They do a lot with Action Comics, which is really cool because I was kind of looking at it and they seem to do a lot of great things. Believe they're up near Tacoma, Washington, so I'm not sure what the comic book scene is like, but yeah, I haven't gotten around to that because I've been kind of watching Titans. I've moved on to Titans, which if you haven't watched Titans, get around to that. I actually think I enjoy it more than Doom Patrol right now. Titans is phenomenal. It's a bit different, a lot more adulty, but it's really good. And after I finish season one, I'll probably get to season two of Umbrella Academy. I know Gerard Way, if anybody knows Gerard Way from My Chemical Romance, he's actually one of the writers for the comics of Umbrella Academy right
Oh,
now.
well, that's
So
cool.
if you get the chance, check those comic books out, which I'm going to have to do myself, do a deep dive because I'm not too familiar with Umbrella Academy outside of what I watched last season, and I'm
Right, me
definitely
too.
I need a refresher myself because I haven't watched it since it came out.
Yeah. Yeah, I recommend at least doing like one of those Wikipedia refreshers just to like refresh your recollection. I wish I had done that because there were times I had to like stop and think, or I even like Google things. Like I totally forgot who Claire was, which was Allison's
Yeah.
daughter. I was like, who's
Oh
Claire?
yeah.
Why is she looking for Claire?
Who
Oh
the
yeah,
hell is
it's her kid.
Claire?
Right.
It's like, oh, this is awkward.
Right. Kind of
um,
important. It's her daughter.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, no, it was great. I loved it. I don't want to say anything about it since you haven't seen it, and it's fairly new, so I definitely don't want to say anything about it to
yeah.
anybody who's
We're gonna have
listening.
to do a spoiler episode, I think, in a little bit, let people kind of catch up to it.
Yeah, yeah. And when we do, we're gonna start being good about warning people about spoilers. So we haven't had any
Yes,
spoilers yet. I know we had one episode where we gave a lot of spoilers.
we did, and some of it's like, okay, Endgame's been out for how long? Good with the
Right. Yeah,
times,
yeah,
man. But I understand if it's something newer like this, or there's certain comic books, we'll be better about it. Um, Going back to the Brewing Cloud real quick, I think next episode we should go ahead and do a review on it because I thoroughly enjoyed that book myself. It's a bunch of short stories, but at the end they all kind of intertwine and connect, which I
yeah.
really love. And you're right, it was exactly like a Willy Wonka story if he would brewed beer and all everything like that. So if you have a week, get it. I don't know if you can get it in stores. We ordered it straight from Hot Culture
Yeah.
Magazine's online store, and if you order it straight from there, Kenny will do like a little draw pictures, a little message to you personally. So I'll show you mine next time. It was really cool. He drew the mountains in mine. Fun little message, stuff like that. It's really cool. The book is amazing. We'll talk about our favorite stories, things like that. Because I've got a favorite story out of all of them. There definitely is one that stood out to me the most and I connected with.
My thing though is he ended it like I wanted more. I was like, wait, what happened next?
So, it's a little bit of a spoiler. I hit him up and I don't want to brag or anything, but I hit him up and I was like, "Hey man, this is a great book. Like I really hope that you do more of this." He is actually working on another one. I don't
Okay,
know if it's
good.
going to be a direct sequel or I imagine it might connect some way, but yeah, he is actually going to go ahead and he's gonna rewriting another one. He's currently writing it anyways. So I can't wait for that to come out
Very
because I was
cool.
thinking the exact same thing. Like, man, I want more of this. It was only 100 pages. It kind of flew by, and I tried to like really calm myself down and not fly through it too fast. But it was really good.
Yeah, no, I should actually respond to because I love the note he wrote. Because he's like, keep Orlando tasty, and he said red light or bust, which is a great craft beer bar that actually brews some of their own beers too. They host a zombie Toberfest every year, which is probably not going to happen, but I hope it does. There's nothing like watching. They do. So Red Light is this. They're an actual brewery, but a huge bottle shop as well. So every year they do zombie Toberfest in October. Everybody dresses like zombies and goes and drinks beer, and they actually teach them the Thriller dance in the parking lot. And
Are you
it's
kidding me? That has to. We can
oh.
socially distance this. That sounds amazing.
So I love that he referenced Red Light. He clearly, well, I see them post a lot of Florida beer too. So somebody that works there either has lived in Florida, knows somebody very well who lives in Florida, or lives in Florida.
I
But
I know that Hop Culture is pretty. They're doing their online beer festival, or they were with Tripping Animals. So I think
yeah,
somehow they are pretty intertwined with the Florida beer scene. Um, I know he's pretty intertwined with like Vermont, Florida, and then obviously Pittsburgh where they're at. So that's
yeah.
pretty cool. I do see a lot of good things on their page. So I know we're shamelessly plugging a few things here, but if you have time, like seriously, check out this book. Kenny he's making the switch to fictional beer writing, and it just really really works. Yeah,
And
and
we can
especially
post that. Yeah, it's The Brewing Cloud by Kenny Gould, Gould, for anybody just listening.
yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll post it on the IG, which we'll plug a little later if you haven't been over there yet. We do a lot of goofy kind of things, so head on over there. We'll plug it later. But yeah, other than that, anything else you kind of reading? I've kind of not had too much time to read a lot lately, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It kind of sucks
Well,
because schools and stuff are kind of opening again, and my son's gonna be playing soccer, which starts Monday, I guess. I guess I'm a soccer dad now.
I've been a soccer mom. It's terrible.
Yeah, this is all
Um,
new to me.
Yeah, no, I haven't. That's Brewing Cloud's the only thing I read this week, because it's also been Shark Week and everything. But I am starting this tomorrow. So the boys,
Oh,
we're gonna do an episode when season 2 comes out, where we'll recap season 1, and hopefully I'll have a little bit of insight from the comic as well there. Not as much
yes.
as or as good as Hop Heroes does it, but I
No, well,
try my
so
hardest.
what they're doing this season, which is kind of interesting, I kind of hate only because I'm like, I want that instant gratification. But so they're releasing the first 3 episodes September 4th, and then they're going to release
No.
yeah, it's going to be sequential after that. So there's only going to be 8 episodes. So for 5 weeks after that, it's going to be 1 episode a week. So you have the first 3 episodes. You can binge the first night, which we can talk about. And then, yeah, you have to wait an episode per week, which, like I said, I want that instant gratification because we all love binge watching everything. That's just what we do now in this day and age. But at the same time, it kind of
Sleep.
makes it so you don't have to watch
Right.
it necessarily. You can kind of take your time. Oh, it gives you something to look forward to. A Friday night, we're gonna go ahead and watch The Boys, the next episode or something. So as much as I hate it, I'm fine with it. It's whatever. I don't have a choice.
No.
But
Yeah, no, I love binging. It's just, it'll be good that because I'll just keep hitting next, and then I'll just be like, I'll just sleep for 4 hours. Because,
I'm like,
yeah,
my kids are gonna be fine. They'll be all right in the morning. You know what? I'll
right.
just throw Cheerios at them and it'll be great.
Yeah. Meanwhile, they're climbing on you, trying to pry open your eyelids.
Oh my God. And it's like my son will walk in and be like, guys, it's morning time. And I'm like, I know the sun is up. I can tell it's morning
Yeah.
time. Can't
Well,
you
my
think
son's
you have
like, yeah, my son's like, Anna, the sun's awake.
like
Oh,
you have
God.
toys in your room. Can't you play with your toys? And it's like, I don't want those toys. Why did I pay for them then?
Right. Yeah. So they could play with him for 5 minutes and then play with the box for longer.
And all they want to do is just, no, I don't want this. Or hey, I'm gonna go buy this. And it's like, you got money? Well, no, but you do. I'm like, that's what you think. You're
Right.
draining it all.
Like, this is a credit card.
You're draining it all with your toys you play with for 5 minutes and then you walk away from. So listen here. And then I'll try to play the reverse psychology. I'm like, all right, let's go give those toys away. And he's like, okay, let's do it. And he starts picking toys out. I'm like, wait, shit, no.
Well, then they only want to get rid of the stuff you want them to keep.
Exactly. It's like, why are you getting rid of this Hulk, like the Hulk Buster? He's like, because,
Right.
I think somebody else would want to play with it. I'm like, but you play with this one all the time. What are you talking about?
Or it's like,
It
no,
backfires.
my grandma gave you that stuffed animal and
Yeah.
she's not with us anymore. You're keeping it forever.
Like you've only touched this toy one time. I get it, but like you said, my grandma gave you this, or somebody gave you this. We're not just giving away like that.
Yeah.
What about this
Ungrateful
toy?
little shits.
God, was I this bad? I probably was, but
Well, that was a terrible tangent about parenting.
listen, parenting, it's great. Let me tell you, it's great.
Right. Right.
It's sunshine and rainbows once
Yeah.
they're able to move out and live their own lives. I'm guessing. I don't know.
Yeah, we're not there yet. Of course, as soon as they move out, then like my oldest is gonna be in college in 2 years, and I'm probably gonna
Oh my
lose it.
God. You're right. You're right. It's one of those things that's like Stockholm syndrome. It gets to like, I wish they would come back, or I had another one.
Stockholm syndrome.
But do you really want another one? No. That's
Yeah,
why they
well,
eventually have grandchildren that you can spoil. And then it's like, go home now. Bye.
exactly. I'm looking forward to that and only that, but not too soon.
No, God, no.
So, shall we move on to our next subject?
Oh, I believe we have some news. What do we got for the news?
Breaking news. All right, so you had way more news. I only came across one article I found worth sharing. So you should share your news first because you got a few good articles.
You go first, so that way I don't share the same thing that you share, because I am one of those that just, I'm scrolling Reddit. I close Reddit, I open Twitter. Twitter's a cesspool. I close Twitter, I open Facebook, and then I close that, and it's a slight rinse, cycle, repeat. So I see a lot of good news, rumors, things like that on there.
Right. Well, it seems like a lot of the news right now is rumors, but it's like this is what we've been told, but nobody has any like rock solid proof. So like I tried to look up because I had mentioned Supernatural last week, and I found an article in like June or July that said they're supposed to be filming starting late July. But I looked at their personal Instagrams, I Googled it. I have no confirmation that they're actually in Vancouver.
This
But
has got to be the best time to be like a news reporter for this kind of stuff, because I can just make up rumors left and right. And
yeah,
people are gonna
right.
gobble that shit up because we have no idea. We're so starved for like content.
Right. Well, with Supernatural though, there's only a handful of episodes left to end that 15-year series.
Oh, that's right.
So yeah, so they just need to come back because I know they also need to finish because Sam or Jared Padalecki is going to be on a new edition of Walker Texas Ranger.
I saw that. Oh my God.
Yeah, so I guess they're gonna have to start filming that eventually. So he wants to kind of, wrap this up, and I'm sure the rest of them do too. It's been 15 years, and it'll be bittersweet. But yeah, my mom used to watch that show with Chuck Norris.
I remember that show when I was a kid. It'd be like the only thing on before Judge Judy or the news, and it's like Walker Texas Ranger, and it's just going
Saves
back
the
and kind
school
of
bus.
yeah, it's like this man Chuck Norris, like. He's the most badass person, but it was the most cliche, cheesy show. I swear. I want to go back.
Yeah.
I need to like just drink a few beers, watch a few Walker Texas Ranger, and be like, what the hell am I actually watching?
Got to make a drinking game out of it. Come up with something.
Yeah.
Now, his best line ever, I feel like, was, what is it, in Expendables? They're like, where have you been? And he's like, oh, I was bit by a snake, and after a few weeks, the snake survived.
Yeah, he was so like self-aware. I love when movies do that,
Right.
especially with Chuck Norris. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my God.
That's amazing. But no, that actually wasn't my breaking news because I felt like that was rumor. But then my breaking news is still a little bit of rumor. So this month, Loki, Falcon and Winter Soldier, and Hawkeye are supposed to start filming in Georgia. So yeah, that was said after all the, because Falcon and Winter Soldier were supposed to start filming back in March,
I think they filmed
and
some,
then
and
did
then
they start filming some?
stopped. I believe they got most of it done, but then they stopped. Again, I needed to fact check that.
There was a
Regardless.
bunch, yeah. Either way, whatever they were filming, I know they weren't done and they stopped. But yeah, so it sounds like they should be, if not already in Georgia, they should be heading to Georgia soon. I don't know if they're going to do it like the NBA. They must be doing it like the NBA where they make them quarantine first. But
Probably, yeah.
hopefully we start seeing more of those Disney Plus shows.
I fully
we have.
believe this one to be a true rumor, only because Georgia has absolutely no idea what the hell they're actually doing over there. They're like, send everybody
Yeah.
to school. Oh no,
Oh, wait.
they're catching the virus. Oh no, you took a picture. We're gonna suspend this child. And then like, look, it's okay, guys. Everybody just crowd this area, and they have no idea what's going on. So I actually believe this one because Georgia's a free for all, just kind of like
Right.
Florida and Idaho are right now. It's just do whatever. The rules are made up. We'll get through this.
Yeah.
Who cares?
But no, I forget where I saw it, but it was, felt like a reputable website. Next time I'm going to print the damn article.
You know, speaking of Walker Texas Ranger and shows coming back, I actually saw on the whole Twitterverse last night trending was Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, because I guess they're rebooting it as a drama. Supposedly they're rebooting Fresh
drama?
Prince as a drama. I mean,
Like
it
a
kind of was a drama.
drama comedy?
I don't know anything past that, but they're bringing Fresh Prince back supposedly, allegedly. They're bringing it back. I don't, obviously it's not going to have Will Smith. I don't know how I feel about
Oh.
that because Will Smith is like the Fresh Prince,
Right.
and Carlton is the Carlton. Sorry, I don't remember his. Oh, Alfonso Ribeiro or Alphonse. I can't remember his name. But
Yeah.
regardless, like there's and
Carlton.
Uncle Phil was Uncle Phil, so maybe that's just me being my old man ways. But yeah, they are bringing supposedly back the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, so I guess we'll see some of that soon.
I mean, if he was Uncle Will, that would be okay.
Damn,
But
that's a
anybody
good
who
idea.
hasn't watched Will Smith was actually on Shark Week last night.
Damn,
So,
was he? I saw Shaq.
Apparently, yeah, Shaq actually hosted last year. I love Shaq. He's so funny. He hosted last year, and he's in a cage in the Bahamas, and like a little shark got in the cage, and he's like losing his mind. And one of the divers had to like grab the shark by like the tail and pull it out. It's like, Shaq, you're like 5 times the size of this little shark.
I don't know
But
why.
yeah, he went swimming with the whale sharks at the Georgia Aquarium. But it's interesting because a lot of the shark episodes are like revolved around COVID and the fact that like the oceans have been empty and stuff. So they're kind of taking advantage of some of that. And I love Shark.
Hold on. They actually have updated Shark Week episodes? Like
Yeah,
current?
it's Shark Week.
Well,
It's
no,
Shark
because I
Week.
feel like they have one new good episode like a year, and then everything after that is stuff I've seen from the previous year.
No, every year from 8 to 11, it's 3 new shows, and then at 11 they do like an after hours, which I always fall asleep as soon as that starts. But it used to be like an after, like a talk show kind of thing.
Yeah.
But now it's like some guy on Skype, and then he does the interviews with like Paul DeGelder, the dude that has like one arm and one leg. That's like the most badass guy you'll ever meet. Not that I've met him, but yeah. And this is obviously will come out after our Hoppy Hour tomorrow night. But yeah, tomorrow night when I do my beer school, which I do every week, it's going to be beer and sharks. I figured out a way how to intertwine them.
I'm going to be very listening to that, but I'm also going to be dreaming of the fact that we just had Shipyard Brewery on as well. So if I'm staring off into space, it's the fact that my dreams became realities.
Don't get so excited. Well, tripping animals, you never know.
That's true. You need to remind me if they do come on, don't hound the poor man too much over the fact that Pumpkinhead's not in Idaho. I don't want him to never talk to us again.
Or he'll just be like, I gotta get it to Idaho so this guy leaves me alone.
Like, please, somebody get it to Idaho. I'm tired of him DMing me every day. He has my email now.
And then Dunkin' Donuts will be like, dude, we know that guy.
Dude, same. Can we just like send him a giant care package? Please do. I'm in no way pressuring you, but if you wanted to, um, yeah.
So,
So
yeah, what's your breaking news? We went way off on a tangent with mine. We started talking about Shark Week. But Shark Week is pretty awesome. So I know you were talking about a Blockbuster Airbnb.
yes, sorry, somebody came
Oh,
in and opened up my door here. So I got some good things going on. First of all, big news. Another rumor, of course. Another rumor. We have Shia LaBeouf's.
Hey, sorry, that goes along with Umbrella Academy. I heard a rumor.
Yeah, I heard a rumor that Shia LaBeouf is potentially being eyed for the role of Iceman in the Marvel reboot of X-Men. Um, that's a lot of like variety. A lot of them have reported this week, and so I don't know how true that is. I'm kind of hoping it's true because Shia LaBeouf, I love that man. He is so underrated. He just went and got tattoos for like a movie he's doing all over his body, and I respect that. You know, somebody who takes the craft seriously, and anything he's in, like I'm there to watch. I grew up watching him in Even Stevens, and so I kind of grew up with Shia LaBeouf, and I know he like his. A lot of people think he's crazy, but yeah, supposedly he's gonna be playing Iceman and X-Men, so I'm hoping that happens.
Well, I loved him in Transformers. I mean, he's still that like dorky but funny but can handle the action
B.
scenes. The B.
I need to, I need to see who yells more, Shia LaBeouf after Bumblebee or Finn after Ray. Can we create a count for this? I need to see who yells more after their other
Oh,
half.
yeah, I don't know. You have to count it, do a drinking game out of it.
I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna make a drinking game. Every time Finn yells Ray, you have to like mark it down, take a drink, and then anytime Shia LaBeouf yells B in the first Bumblebee movie or the first two movies, however many he's in, just go ahead and tick it off because I'm curious because Shia LaBeouf does yell a lot in that movie. He's great in it, and he's
Yeah.
great in a lot of the Tank movie. He's in Fury. That's with Brad Pitt. He's good in that movie as well. If you haven't seen that, I highly recommend. It's been out for a few years. But yeah, he's hopefully that happens. I'm just excited to get some X-Men action because X-Men's one of those
Yeah.
things that has so much potential, but they continuously screw up somehow.
Yeah, but now they're owned by Disney, so we'll see
That's
if
true.
I would love to I know they've already talked about some of how they're going to incorporate some of the X-Men in there and if they're going to introduce mutants. I mean, they got to introduce
They
mutants.
have to, which this is the prime time too, I feel like, because the big kind of circling thing is why don't you introduce them? Because when Thanos destroyed the Infinity Gauntlets, or every time they were used, a lot of gamma was given off. So you can either go like,
Ah.
hey, that gamma given off, or whatever from the gauntlet being used multiple times, that's a way to introduce mutants. Or you can be like, they ripped some sort of like multi-dimensional thing, or
Mhm.
if Doctor Strange is using the multiverse of madness, why don't we go ahead and he messes around and somehow mutants are now introduced to kind of play with
Nice.
the timeline a bit since we're playing with timelines. So I am interested. I hope that's kind of what they do because there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah. Well, what's going on? Because I saw New Mutants is supposed to come out in theaters at the end of this month. Are they actually releasing that
Yeah,
in theaters?
I think they're August 28th. I mean, let's be honest. If theaters are open anyways, who's gonna go see it?
Yeah.
Um, so I think they're just ready to like offload this off their plate because it's been in production and in the works, and we've been hearing about it for what,
Right.
like 2 or 3 years now. So yeah, supposedly August 28th
Yeah.
is New Mutants. I don't
Oh,
actually think
that's
that's
the
gonna
preview.
happen,
Yeah, but
but
yeah, it's still saying. I guess the original release date was April 3rd. Is that correct? And then they moved it
yep,
to August 28th. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I saw that during Shark Week because that's the only time I would watch commercials is live
right.
TV. And I was like, wait, what? In theaters? What?
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe they're just releasing and just hoping for the best, especially with like other countries kind of opening their theaters back up. So I don't know. I will see. August 20, maybe the week before next week. That'd be next week. They'd have to make a decision. But I think they
Yeah.
might just go ahead and roll with it. But I don't know any movie theater in the U.S. right now that's open. Mine's not open, that's for sure.
I don't think ours is either. But I mean, I haven't been there lately.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
haven't
I
either.
mean, they're paying for the commercials and those aren't free. So, um, yeah. So you gotta tell me more about this Blockbuster Airbnb. I need more details on that.
Yes. So Blockbuster, there's a Blockbuster. It's like the last one ever in Oregon. It's supposedly now an Airbnb. There's a Blockbuster in Oregon. supposedly an Airbnb now. It's the last one. So if you grew up like me and Hoppy, we Friday nights it was popping. We went to Blockbuster. We got movies. We went for Chinese food or pizza or whatever you did.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you went and you got all this good stuff from Blockbuster, and that was just kind of how it is. So there's only one left. I guess I thought there was another one in Alaska. So if it isn't the last one, then let me know.
Mm.
But yeah, Bend, Oregon, I believe they've turned it into an Airbnb. So you can go ahead and you can stay there in a
Ah.
Blockbuster and like have your 90s experience. So if you want to take your kids on vacation, be like, this is how I had it when I grew up. Now is the time to do it because yeah, that's only 6 hours for me. It's 5 or 6 hours.
Ooh.
So I'm strongly considering kind of going there and just experiencing it if this is in fact like not sold out forever and always because I can see like a rush of people trying to get there and sell it out.
Well, and their craft beer scene is supposed to be phenomenal. When I was in Portland, everyone's like, "Did you go to Bend? Are you going to Bend?" And it was like we had the kids with us, and we only had so much time. But I mean, yeah, Bend, Oregon's supposed to be great for beer, and well, you're gonna need a place to crash after you go to all those breweries.
That's true. So we get some beer from Oregon, and a lot of it comes from Bend. But I've heard the same. Like it's a big ski, obviously, because you got the mountains right there. So it's a big like ski, snowboard kind of area. So they have a lot of good breweries. To which I'm trying to get out there as soon as I can. I know it's a little tougher right now. I probably would have already been out there had COVID not come
Right.
through. But yeah, their beer scene's supposedly amazing. And then go to Blockbuster, like you said, just go crash on the couch while watching your favorite movie like Top Gun or something that you just picked up off the shelf. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah.
Is everything VHS? No, they were DVDs whenever they
Oh
decided to
yeah,
start
yeah, yeah.
closing them. It was like
Because we
2009 when they started close.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we even had because I remember I had Netflix for back even when they, you got the three DVDs. I think it was like 2005. Like I remember like living by myself in
Oh
my
God, I
apartment with
remember
my
that.
yeah. I was living alone with my 2-year-old and I was in law school. So I couldn't afford cable, but I could afford Netflix. And so they would send me three DVDs at a time. And then in like '09 or 2010 when I moved to Orlando, Blockbuster was combining that and I loved it where they would send you DVDs and you could switch them out at the actual brick and mortar place.
Yeah.
And then that vanished because they started streaming. And then once the streaming went, Blockbuster was just like, all right, we tried.
Well, I think it was either Netflix or Redbox tried to pitch the idea of whatever their model was to Blockbuster, and Blockbuster was like, no, 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 don't worry about it. It's kind of like Sears. If they put their
Ouch.
catalog all online, they'd be not going into foreclosure, basically.
Hmm.
So Blockbuster had the chance to do it. They turned it down, and so that's kind of, I guess, why they're in the position they are, and having one left.
Right. But they got to be in Captain Marvel, so that
Yeah,
was fun.
that is true. So
Uh,
yeah, I supposedly that's why, and yeah, it's an Airbnb. Um because we're so hot on the rumors, apparently Spider-Man 3 is titled Homesick. Maybe there's a leak that says somebody says, "Yep, this is it," which I kind of tend to believe that one only for the fact that they had Homecoming,
Far
Far
From
From
Home.
Home. And so how many other play on home can you have? So Homesick would make sense because he's probably going to be on the run. Spoiler alert.
Oh,
He,
right, right.
that was your chance to leave now. He
Right.
got exposed as Spider-Man by Mysterio there at the end. So Homesick would make sense because he's going to be on the run. Everybody knows Peter Parker Spider-Man. They're going to be coming after him.
Right. You can't call it Home Alone. Maybe that'll
Yeah.
be a
Oh
future one.
God. Spider-Man Home Alone, and all you see in the background is Macaulay Culkin just like setting up traps for Spider-Man. Like, no, no, man, I got you.
Maybe you have like Green Goblins trying to break into his house at Christmas time. He's throwing ornaments instead of jack-o'-lanterns.
Aunt May and Happy go out on a date, and it's just like he's stuck at home now, and he has to like go ahead and set up traps and everything like that.
This is my house.
Oh, you came to the wrong house, punk. But yeah, Homesick allegedly is the title of the next Spider-Man film. So I don't hate it. I'm cool with it. I don't really care what the title is because I'm just gonna see Spider-Man and I'm gonna be at that movie anyway. So
Oh, yeah, 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 for sure.
you can slap whatever on that title. I'm gonna be there regardless opening night if we have a theater open.
Right. Right. As long as it's, especially if it's Tom Holland. I shouldn't say as long as, because I'll go see any Spider-Man movie, but just especially
Yeah.
Tom
Well,
Holland.
yeah, because he is Spider-Man now. Like he's obviously played both sides the best. So yeah, I'm there, and hopefully they kind of introduce like the Green Goblin, Harry Osborn. I wonder if they're gonna introduce some of them some more.
Yeah. Well, I would think that Disney's probably holding off on him, and was the other one Lizard Man? I don't remember what his actual name was, but
Oh, Chameleon or Scorpion?
no, the guy that he was in both the Tobey Maguire one, but he only did a cameo as the professor,
Oh,
and then he
Doctor.
was the
Oh God,
not
no.
Doc Ock,
Yeah, yeah, no. I know who
the
you're
lizard
talking.
dude, the guy that
God,
had one arm, so he was
God,
doing. I can't
I,
remember
c-
his actual
we
name.
call ourselves comic geeks and specialists, but why am I?
And that's why we keep giving shout outs to Hop Heroes.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
thinking really hard because yes, he tries to fix his arm. He becomes, the alligator, all that. And he was actually they did his character in The Amazing Spider-Man, which I didn't hate, but
yeah, no,
yeah,
he was a main villain in in the one with Andrew Garfield, but then he did have a cameo in the Tobey Maguire one, but he's just the professor that's like, oh, Peter, you need to turn in your work, and you only know it's him because he's missing an arm and he's the
yeah, they like
professor.
not so subtle
Um,
nod and a wink.
Dr. Kurt Connors, I think it just says the
I
lizard.
thought it was I was gonna say Dr. Connor. Yeah, I think he's just a lizard.
Yeah, Dr. Connors. Um, but I think a lot of the characters we've seen, I would think that the MCU is probably going to hold off a little and try to because like I thought, obviously I knew Mysterio was a bad guy because he's also had, gone head to head with Wolverine in some of the comics, and I've read a bunch of the Wolverine ones. So I knew Mysterio was bad. I don't think that's a spoiler. That's not going to ruin the movie if you know, but
Yeah.
a lot of people I know saw it and had no clue, and they were very surprised.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have friends that don't read any of this. Like,
That makes
I've,
sense. A lot of the casual goers.
yeah, I mean, I had one girlfriend that for years I tried to convince her, watch the movies, they're great. And slowly she started to because we went out to Disneyland and we did the Marvel run. So she kind of, she wanted to see some of them, and her son was starting to get into it. And then we did the Marvel cruise, the Disney cruise in January. So I was like, well, you got to watch all the movies before we go on the cruise. And so she's now seen all of them and loves them. And then she
Oh,
started to ask about like, the Wolverine stuff. I was like, I'm not going to do X-Men to you. Just leave it be.
just let it go,
Yeah.
man.
But I remember one time years and years ago, I was talking about Marvel with somebody or Wolverine, and she goes, how are we such good friends? And it's so funny to see the evolution of like, she'll say stuff or I'll say stuff and she's like, I get that reference. I'm like, no shit, you get that reference. I'm so proud of you,
This
Erica.
is why we finally did it.
Right. And so we actually did like a Marvel pub crawl and everything. Like, actually, that was like a year ago. So she's only recently watched all the movies because we did Marvel pub crawl a year ago. She's decked out in like a Captain Marvel person, everything. And she's like, I don't know any of this. She was just there for the
But I'm
drink.
here. But still,
Right.
nonetheless, that's kind of awesome because you take somebody who's never seen it and you kind of introduce them. And I wish I can be in that stage almost because it's like
Right.
you can watch it all. You can binge watch all these movies for the first time. It's almost like when I'm going to show my kids Star Wars. You get to see it all for the first time. Or I still remember a year ago being at Endgame and like the girl next to me was crying and
Oh my God,
I
I was
was like,
crying.
I wanted to cry almost, and I'm like, this is amazing. When that portal scene, I will always talk about that portal scene because it gets me going every single time. I listen to that music on a run sometimes, just because of when I'm struggling, I'm like, I'm throwing on portals, and it gets me so effing hyped. But yeah, I wish that's just the amazing thing about these comics is back in the 90s, back in the 80s, it was kind of taboo, but now in this day and age, anybody, you'll have Aaron Rodgers talking about things like Game of Thrones. You'll have a lot of these like sports stars, people who you wouldn't necessarily expect to be like, oh, I love anime, I love this, I love that, and it's just this culture that's like craft beer, where it's oh hell yeah. I know there's people who
Right.
gatekeep, and there's going to always be people that gatekeep, but for the most part, it's one of the more welcoming communities, and
Yeah.
I just love the attention it's getting by people who are just casual. They just love the movies, and that's okay. I'm cool
Yeah.
with that because it's still all inclusive for everybody.
Right. And it makes it more fun to share with everybody. Because like I wasn't into any of this in well, the 80s I was very young, but even the 90s, wasn't into any of this stuff in high school. I didn't get into
Yeah.
it until I was I'm an adult. And I remember with Game of Thrones, I'm like, I don't know, dragons, like that's not really my thing. Like
Yeah.
I'm honestly I'm not big into Harry Potter. My daughters made me watch them. And then when I started asking questions in the later movies, because the later movies got better, she goes, well, you shouldn't have been on your phone the whole time for the first few movies.
First of all, yes, your daughter's amazing because Prisoner of Azkaban is my favorite book. I was there like every opening weekend of Harry Potter. I picked it up opening day and I read it that weekend. Even there were like 1,000-page books, and I just holed up in my room and I read them. Oh God, I love Harry
But see,
Potter.
you were a better age. Like when the first movie came out, it came out after I graduated from high school. So it came out the same year. So that summer, I was dating my now husband, and my in-laws, who weren't my in-laws then, kept telling me to read the book. I've since read the book because my daughter made me read the book, but they're like, oh, you got to read this book before the movie comes out. And my husband hadn't read it. He wasn't into it at all. And he's like, just leave her alone. And so I never read it then. And when the movie came out, like I worked at a daycare and like the kids would watch the movie. So to me, it was just like this little kid movie.
Yeah,
But when you read it when you're younger, then the books and the movies evolve with you. So I almost felt like I was just a bit too old to enjoy.
that makes
Because
sense.
I mean, the first one is a kid movie, and the book follows almost exact to the movie. I felt like the only difference was like the thing with the dragons, with Haggard
Mhm.
smuggling out dragons or something. I feel like other than that, they were to a T. It was like the first Game of Thrones book in the first season. They were like exact.
Right. They did a pretty good job. You're right. And so I guess to me, you're right. I kind of grew up with Harry Potter. Um, and so because the first movie came out in like, I think
Oh,
the books
one.
first came out like 99 and then the movies came out '01. So I was 11 when the first movie came out. And to me, I don't know why. I guess because a lot of it takes place over the snowy wintertime. I will always associate Harry Potter with like Christmas, Thanksgiving, because they're always having feasts. They're always like
Right.
wintertime and at Hogwarts. So to me, Harry Potter just brings that Christmas spirit, and it's something I binge watch all the movies. Obviously, the later the movies go, the less Christmas spirity they kind of get,
Well, that's when
but
they get better, though.
they do, yeah, because you get more of the action. It gets more like
It's
adulty
more
in a
adult.
way.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's fine. But to me, yeah, those the first three, maybe four, always just make me think of Christmas so hard, and it makes me feel like a kid again. So I binge
Because
watch those
yeah,
movies all the time.
but that makes sense. It makes you feel like a kid again because you were a kid. Like when the first movie came out, I was 18. So I was
Okay,
a I
I'll
was a
have you
grown up.
know, just so everybody knows, I'll be 30 in 2 months, so
Well, la-di-da for you. I love
I'm
that there
kind of
was
an
an
adult now.
kind of an adult. No, there was the episode. My birthday was last week, and on Hoppy Hour I wasn't on there, but they were like trying to guess how old I was, and my mom just chimes in, "She's 37." I'm like, "Thanks, mom. I needed that." They're like, "I don't know, 32." I'll go with
Guys,
that.
you you act like you're so much older, but there's like a 7 year gap, and it's not that much, especially now. The older you get, it gets less, I feel
Oh yeah,
like.
yeah, yeah.
When younger, yeah, I can see the gap where like you didn't grow up with Harry Potter, things like that, whereas I did.
Right.
But it
Because you have
just,
the nostalgia value as well.
I do. I got such rose-colored glasses for anything that happened pre 2010. I'm perpetually living in 2009. Look up my Apple Music. It's basically all music that I grew up with in high school. You have Under Oath, My Chemical Romance, things like that. Blink 182.
Oh, I love Blink 182.
I've seen them live so many times.
I don't even know how many times I've seen them.
Ugh.
First time I saw them was Warped Tour '99. I think we've talked about that
Oh
briefly before, but
Jesus.
yeah.
Yes, yes, we have.
All right.
Which, but so
Yeah.
the real reason
Back
we're
on
here
track.
today,
We still
we
have to
go on
do
track,
our main topic.
which is favorite superheroes.
Yes.
And so obviously people can probably guess. People
They
would
might be able to guess both of ours if they're watching YouTube right now.
obviously, yeah, if you're watching us live, you can probably guess. However, I'm interested to see what people, if anyone hears this and you thought something differently, chime in because my favorite hero isn't the one that I feel like would be the one you would think of at first. So who is yours first? I know who it is, but I want to know why. Like, what brought you to that character?
Mine is Wolverine. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, you just like Hugh Jackman." He is absolutely the reason that I got into loving
God,
Wolverine
he's
so much.
so beautiful too.
He is so beautiful, but he's also like a foot taller than Wolverine. Wolverine's supposed to be like 5'3".
Yes, yes.
But the first comic book I ever picked up was Wolverine because I fell in love with well, at least the first two X-Men movies. The third one was all right. That wasn't the best. But I'm talking the original trilogy of X-Men movies. I'm not talking all this apocalypse and everything they did to, I don't even know what the real timeline is anymore. Um, but watching those, I just fell so much in love with that character because I loved that he was such a badass. And at the same time, he had such a big heart, even when he tried not to have a big heart, that like I wanted to know more. And when I read some of the books, like my brother-in-law let me read his comic book collection from like the 80s. So I have like some old school Wolverine books because he just hasn't asked
Damn.
for them back. So I still have them. I have some awesome stuff. And when I started reading him, it was in line with how I felt Hugh Jackman was portraying it, where he was this badass guy that calls everybody bub and still has this huge heart and wants to do good, even though he doesn't want to do good. And yeah, the more I learned about him, the more I read about him. I still read the new ones. I fell in love with him. And a lot of people know I named my son Logan. And the movie Logan came out when I was pregnant with Logan, so that was cool. That I loved that movie. I loved how they
It was a
wrapped up.
great movie. It was.
Yeah, I'd love to see a cameo with the MCU though. Just do just a little nod to something because he portrayed the character so well. He deserves to be in a better universe.
So you're right. Hugh Jackman definitely is Wolverine. He is. And I've never really read a lot of Wolverine comics, to be honest with you. So, but he did encapture. I didn't even care. I knew the height difference. People would complain about that, but I didn't care because, like you said, he he had that love affair with Jean that you saw. Yeah, it might have been a little
Hmm.
cheesy, but he had that. He had the caring. He cared so much for like Rogue, things like
Right.
that. Um, and he just had that heart. He had the anger. And the one movie, what was it? Days of Future Past, or no, I'm sorry, it was First Class when they were trying to get everyone
Yeah.
together. He's like, "Fuck off."
Uh,
But yeah, he was Wolverine, and so to me, it's gonna be jarring seeing another Wolverine
oh, it's gonna
because even
hurt.
when I
I don't
do
want them to
look,
do it.
it's I don't want them either, but I get that they
Do
will.
do Laura or do Dankin, his son. Like I don't know. I feel like they need to wait a while. But the height thing's kind of funny because if you notice in the earlier movies, they film like lower and they try to make
Yeah.
him, and his pants are a little baggier. And like by Logan, they're like everybody knows this dude's 6 foot, whatever.
Look, we
There's
don't care. We're just
yeah,
here for some Wolverine.
right. But I will say the one difference is they make a lot of references in the comics to his size. Like even Hulk, like the first appearance of Wolverine was with Hulk, and he keeps calling him little guy. And obviously anybody's little compared to the Hulk. Well, not anybody, but a lot of them. But you see that in other fights too. They're like, oh, what's this little guy? Oh, wow, this little guy's fast. And it's like he's not that little in the movie, so they don't really do
Right.
that in the movies. But yeah,
Well,
yeah, when he appeared in First Class, I think I like yelped because I wasn't expecting to see him. So even though he just
right.
had that one little cameo, I was like, oh, it's him.
Even having a cameo like that in the Marvel, I think they will. I have to have faith that they're gonna have Hugh Jackman do a cameo, even if they don't like, here's Logan, but they'll probably shove him in there just for the nostalgia factor because you can't. He is Wolverine. The first
Yeah,
X-Men movie came out in like 2000. And
yeah,
so again, it's one of those things that he's played it for so long. It was like
yeah.
17,
For
18
yeah,
years
17 years. The last movie came out in
that
2017.
he kind of took it over. And I've never, like I said, I've never really read a lot of Wolverine comics, but I do want to read more. He makes me want to read more. He got me interested in the character.
Right. Oh, that comic book actually, the I Wolverine that we talked about, I don't remember on one of the past issues. So I actually learned a little bit about that today. I came across something in my Wolverine book. So if anybody didn't listen to the last one, we reviewed this one comic called I Wolverine. And there's a bunch of I whatever, and Wolverine was basically a robot, and he was saving this little girl that was a robot. And you and I both said we weren't fans of it.
Hmm.
So that's actually an older storyline where these robots were created to kill Wolverine, and somehow they
Oh.
end up Wolverine's not dead in those, but in this comic they said he was dead. So I don't know if he's actually dead. He's never actually dead. So
They die, but then they have
have
reasons
yeah,
why they come back at some
it's
point.
another
So he might be dead
universe or
for
something.
now, but who
Right.
knows where it's set
But I
like 10
guess
issues from now.
exactly. So these robots end up like becoming friends with Wolverine in the past comics. So now I'm almost curious to get the next issue just to
Hmm.
kind of see how it plays out. I'm going to talk to my comic book guy next time I go in.
I think maybe I'll go this weekend and kind of hit them up because I know like the first season of a show, the first issue of a comic, the first book, you have to get introduced to the characters. And so I
Yeah.
always like to read or watch, further just to see if it is something I'm interested in or I'm totally turned off to. So I'm interested now knowing that they were all like robots built to beat him. I'm uh I'm pretty interested to see what they do with it. So I'm pretty good with that.
Yeah. Okay, so everyone knows mine and I've told mine, so now you got to tell yours.
Yeah, so looking at me, I have a couple Batman tattoos. Batman's somebody I've always loved and will always love. But Flash is actually my favorite character, and it's one of those he's like just wants to be an ordinary dude. Yes, he can run fast. Sure.
The
That's a big
fastest
thing.
man
But
alive.
he is. You know, he always says that in the show, and then he gets his ass kicked. So it's
No,
always
then they
funny to
always
me.
find people that are faster than him.
I'm
You're
the
not the
fastest
fastest
man
man
alive,
alive.
and he's getting his ass beat by like Reverse Flash, everybody
Right.
else, like all the
Except for
time.
Zoom, except for Reverse Flash,
Yeah.
except for this person. Well,
If you
Zoom.
ignore these guys, I'm the fastest man
Right.
alive. But no, he Flash is my favorite character, and it's because he's somebody he didn't have parents. His mom was murdered. If you know Flash's backstory, his mom was murdered. They thought it was his dad. Well, he spent his whole life becoming a you know investigator, crime scene investigator to kind of prove his dad was innocent, which his dad was, because spoiler alert, it was Reverse Flash who came back in time and killed Nora Allen. And so just his dedication, you know, he's somebody with such a big heart. He can literally do anything on this earth that he wants because he is the Flash. He can slow time down, he can go back in time, he can go forward in time. He has the speed force, but he uses it for good, and he really cares about people. He wants to live as normal life as possible. There's a lot of arguments. He is faster than Superman when it comes to the ground. Obviously, Superman can fly, so that's cheating. So Flash can run on, but he can also vibrate through things. He goes so fast, he vibrates through walls. It's just what he
Phases.
does. Yeah, it's just what he does with his power. And my favorite Flash story of all time is the Flashpoint, because if you're not familiar with Flashpoint, it's been around for a while. There's a movie which I cannot recommend enough. DC movies, they kill it every single time. And so basically gets so fed up that his mom is dead, and he just runs, and he accidentally goes back in time, saves his mom, and this sets off a whole chain reaction of, oh shit, now you have Wonder Woman and Aquaman fighting. Reverse Flash is behind everything basically, and Reverse Flash's only purpose in this earth is to F with Barry Allen because he hates him so much. Reverse Flash is from the future, which we can dive in a whole thing later. I can go on for days, but his whole thing is he just hates Barry Allen. He wanted to be like him so much, but he knew by going, he created himself. He went back in time, saw that they were supposed to be enemies, and so that's kind of why they're enemies. But Flash is just this character with so much hope, so much, and he just tries to always do the right thing. He tries to save everybody, and it's one, like in Justice League, that movie was awful. But what Batman said was, it starts with one person, just save one. And that's his thing, is he can save all these people, but it starts with one. And what he chooses to do with those insane powers is just truly incredible. And all of his stories are fantastic. I can't recommend enough. And that's kind of why I don't relate. I like to run. I was adopted. And so kind of like his background, obviously my mother was never murdered or anything like that. So I can't relate in that aspect, but just he's finding his sense of purpose and sense of belonging. And so to me, that's something that I connect with. And that's why he's my favorite character. There's so much to him, so much depth. So I can't recommend the comics enough, basically. I can talk all day about this.
Well, I mean, I've never read the Flash comics. I'm going to change that. But even in the show, when they did the Flashpoint, he felt like, I've done so much for so many people. I want my mom. I deserve it. It's not fair. And then he's like, shit, what did I do? So it's
Yeah.
really kind of sad to see him never get what he deserves. But I mean, in a way, that's all the superheroes, but he seems to have more heart behind it.
Yeah. I mean, because you have Batman. Yeah. His mom and dad died. We've seen it
I mean,
80
he's
million
angry.
times. And he's just angry, which I can
Which we
relate
know,
to as well. I
right?
can definitely relate to that. And, you want to beat criminals to a pulp, but Batman's motivations are kind of different than Barry's, and they each have different intentions behind them completely.
Mhm.
But at the end of the
Right.
day, Barry Allen, the Flash, just wants to kind of live this life and prove his dad wrong and just save people. Not to say Batman doesn't, but
Well, Batman's more like
Batman's he's
revenge.
rich. He's rich. He wants
Yeah.
revenge. He's angry. Whereas Barry Allen's like, I want to be good in the world, and that's my biggest motto, is I just want to bring good in the world, because that's why I do what
Right.
I do. I'm very big on helping people. That's all I care about at work, outside of work, and so that's why Flash to me embodies helping people. Not that Superman doesn't, which honestly I was never really a Superman fan until Man of Steel came out. I did not like Superman,
Mm.
and then Man of Steel came out, and I was like, I kind of like Superman now. And he embodies that, of course, because he's an alien, the most powerful human being in the universe, basically. But he
Mm.
chooses to help people, so in a way, relatable to that. And so, not to get any deeper, that's kind of where I am with Flash and why I relate to him, because he's just an ordinary dude, or he's
Right.
not ordinary, but he wants to be ordinary and just help people.
Well, I love that Grant Gustin, who plays Flash on the CW show, is apparently obsessed with Superman. I don't know
Yes.
if yeah, if you've ever heard the interviews, I've heard him talk about how when he was a kid, he was a kid that always had the Superman costume on and
Hmm.
would, jump off things. And I've heard some funny things from even the guy that plays Superman on Supergirl. He said that the first time I guess he had the costume on and Grant Gustin was there when he came out, they had to do the scene again because Grant Gustin went, like he was like so excited.
And see, I love Grant Gustin. He is the Flash to me. He
Yeah,
played it so well. Ezra Miller, we didn't really get a fair shake with him. They're making a Flash
no,
movie eventually, but I want to see more Flash movies because I think him and Aquaman are probably two of the more underrated DC characters. To me personally, because Aquaman gets made fun of so much, but there's so much more to that character as well.
yeah. I actually haven't finished the movie. I started the movie on an airplane and never
Oh
finished
my
it.
God, it's really good.
Well,
It's a
I
CGI fest, obviously, but it's really good.
yeah, yeah, and I got through the bulk of it. Well, I have HBO Max right now to watch Doom Patrol, so I should finish Aquaman because it's on there. And I accidentally paid for a month. I forgot to cancel. So
Story of my life. I always forget
no,
to. I'm like, look, listen. I tell my wife all the time, we're just doing it for a month, and I'll cancel it. And then she's like, why did we get charged for this?
I
Oh, my bad. I forgot to cancel. Oh, I'm the
I'm usually pretty
worst.
good. I put it on my calendar. I think I thought it was 7 days and it was only 5 days or something. So I think I got
See,
bamboozled. I'm
that's bamboozled because it's always
sticking
at
with
least a
that.
7 day or a 30-day trial. There's never a 5 day trial. That's trash.
I could be wrong. This could be complete BS, and I just
It could be, which
just
will.
forgot until I got the email like your Apple account has been charged $15 or whatever the hell HBO is now.
So that was, yeah, that was our favorite characters. Kind of give some backstory into who we are as people, I guess, as well. As you can always tell somebody by their favorite characters or favorite books, favorite movies. So you kind of get to grow with us a little bit.
Yeah.
Uh, Now, to get away from the seriousness, we have one last debate. And this one, I'm going to plug these guys pretty hard. So, one of our first guests, if you ever heard us Thursday nights on Hops News, Loose Screw Beer. They are in Idaho here, Boise, Idaho. I'm drinking out of
Nice.
their glass right now. Really cool guys, really great. They're doing a lot of great things. Smaller brewery. Their beer is some of the best I've had in Boise. Well, Marcos, their head brewer slash part owner, hit us up and was like, "Hey, which superhero drinks would drink craft beer and why?" So I thought that was a really good question. I had to really think about it too, because it's just like, man, that's a really good question. My first thought, and I know we texted it kind of the same,
Yeah.
was, well, Wolverine's not drinking craft beer. He's drinking like
No.
Molson's Canadian whatever
Yeah.
or something.
Any
Oh,
Canadian lager in a bottle. I even have
yeah.
yeah, I have comic book proof.
He's not drinking craft beer, so it kind of led me to think. And for me personally, I think Hal Jordan's drinking craft beer because he's a pilot. I interact with pilots enough to know that they like the fancier things in life,
Oh,
and
that's
they're all a
inside
bunch of
knowledge.
bros. They are a bunch of bros.
Mm.
So to me, they drink IPAs. So Hal Jordan's definitely an IPA drinker because he's a bro. Um, I think the Flash, I think Thor, and I think Captain America also drink craft beers because it's not going to mess with their beautiful, beautiful physiques, especially you, Chris Hemsworth and Thor. Um, it's not going to do anything. And if they're drinking beer, they want to taste it since it's not going to give them that alcoholic part. So that's kind of why I think those three. And then I was trying to really think. I was like Doctor Strange, Tony Stark. No, they're drinking bourbons of the fanciest
Mm.
kinds. Batman's drinking ginger ale.
Drinking.
Aquaman's Aquaman's drinking like your trashy Einstock's not trashy, so I apologize. But Einstock, he's probably drinking Einstock or
Oh, an
just
Einstock porter is delicious.
yeah, Einstock's really really good. But he's probably drinking like your Coors Light or whatever, just because it depends who you get. Me,
No,
I'm
but
picturing Jason
Aquaman.
Momoa.
Okay, but isn't Jason Momoa and Aquaman, aren't they environmentalists? So shouldn't they be drinking local beer because it has less of an impact on the environment?
Ooh, that's actually makes a lot of sense. They're going to
So
beer breweries and buying
yes,
growlers because
yes,
they're good for the environment. Ooh, I didn't
exactly.
think
Because
about that.
Jason Momoa has even come out and spoken against plastic water bottles, and I was like, "Preach, Momoa, preach! Plastic water bottles aren't allowed in my house. It is
Yes.
forbidden." But yeah, so he's a huge environmentalist, and he's awesome. So I figured he might be. And then my other one was Thor for obvious reasons, which I'll state in a minute. But I wasn't so sure about Captain America because I feel like craft beer is such a new thing now. I mean, it wasn't. 100 years ago, but 100 years ago, Captain America was an infant or just born.
Yeah.
Whereas when he was drinking in the 40s, I feel like he's a little bit still old fashioned to some of the 40s traditions that he would probably just drink whatever they would drink in the 40s. But I also remember him after he thought Bucky died, just like sitting there being like, oh, I can't even get drunk. So what's the point of drinking? So I don't even know if he would drink.
That's true. See, because my mind went to Bucky as Bucky, and I was like, well, Bucky might enjoy it, but I was like, no, he's a product of the 40s, so he's probably drinking whatever alcohol they had back then, especially after all the effed up things that he went through.
Yeah.
But my reason with Captain America, I guess, was more of like the physical level is, hey, some of these things taste good. I'm not going to feel it anyways. If I'm drinking a beer, then I might as well enjoy the taste of things because it
Right.
doesn't
Not drink
nothing
something
affects me.
watered down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
why would I drink something that's watered down, tastes like water when I can drink water? Whereas I'm gonna give these craft beers a taste, and I'm gonna drink it for the taste, like a lot of us do.
Right.
So that's kind of why I thought of him versus like Hal
Oh,
Jordan, like I said, who's a bro, who's just drinking it for
right.
bro reasons.
I don't know that much about Hal Jordan other than the thing everybody's trying to block out of their memory.
What are you
Um,
talking about? Green Lantern was the best movie
hey,
ever.
even Ryan Reynolds trying to block it out of his memory.
I hope he
Um,
returns. Okay, he's coming back.
just not in a CGI outfit.
No, God,
Um,
don't do CGI.
so obviously my first thought was Thor because Thor, when Rocket's like, oh, there's beer on the ship, he's like, what kind?
Yeah,
Oh, I don't drink tea. He makes a lot of references to different kinds of beer. And anybody who's seen Endgame, he's drinking a Creature Comforts beer called Athena, and it's a Berliner Weiss.
oh, is that what that is?
That's what
I
that
have
is.
always wondered, and I don't know why I didn't look it up. I guess I was lazy, but
Well, when we had Bitch Beer podcast on there, she had mentioned it was Creature Comforts because I knew it was a craft beer. I didn't know what. So I actually Googled it right before we started. So it was a Berliner Weiss called Athena from Creature Comforts. Because
oh,
they do a lot of the filming in Georgia. So it was kind of neat that they actually go out and buy local beer.
yeah.
So I think Thor would definitely appreciate craft beer. And I'm going to do one that's kind of outside of the box just because I'm going to do a little Women Crush Wednesday kind of thing. I'm going to go with Scarlet Witch. And the reason I'm going to go with that
Ooh,
is because I feel like she would want something with flavor and something bourbon barrel aged and something strong. And she wants to taste the flavor and more than the
yeah,
paprika that Vision's putting in everything.
that
Um,
makes
so,
it
so those
is.
are, I mean, and obviously my answers, I went straight to just the MCU movies. I didn't dig deeper into that, but I know Wolverine wouldn't. And
Well, that's our thing. Like, you're more MCU, I'm more DC, which is why it works. Is I can bring the DC aspect, you can bring the MCU, and we both are interested in learning about the other side. Um, so it's funny you said Scarlet Witch because I kind of thought about her, but then I was like, I don't know, maybe not. So the reasons you say make a lot of sense, like something with flavor kind of in them.
well, I'd
Um,
like to see a woman drinking the craft beer,
yeah.
not just the dudes.
Well, yeah, we're absolutely. I was thinking, I think, honestly, I can see Wonder Woman drinking like a barrel aged, like 14% beer, to
Yeah.
kind of, she personally seems like somebody who would drink that, whereas Steve Trevor's probably drinking like a lager or something, and he's like, how can you drink that kind of stuff? So
Right.
that's where I come from with that. I also think Ant-Man, if we're talking Scott Lang, because Paul Rudd in my head, I just picture him. We're talking MCU still, not so much comic booky, but I picture Paul Rudd drinking craft beer for whatever reason. Maybe because I have a man crush on Paul Rudd, but
Well, I see him liking something like a milkshake IPA and being like, and Thor being like, what is this? And him being like, oh yeah, ooh. This is like
he's like,
Ross
"Oh, this
on
is
Friends.
awful."
Right. Like when Ross drinks that liquor that Rachel left behind, he's like, oh, it's really good. And Joey's like, ew. Like I picture that kind of scenario with like Thor
Yeah,
and Paul Rudd. So yeah, I could see that. But I feel like he would like the sweeter kind of styles.
I think so. I also think like Gamora's drinking whiskey or something like that because she's
Oh
tough.
yeah.
I
She's
think
drinking
she's
liquor for
drinking
sure.
something like that. I think that Drax would give craft beer a try, but he's gonna probably spit it out just because that's how Drax is. Um,
And then throw the
Cyborg,
glass on the floor.
yeah. Cyborg, I don't see him drinking craft beer at all, because he's Cyborg. A good one is, so if you've been watching Doom Patrol at all, Rita Farr. I asked my wife this question, and that was her answer was Rita Farr, because Rita's always trying to like put on and at least in the show, she's always trying to put on this persona of she fits in, she belongs, this fake kind of
Ah,
persona. So she'd be drinking whatever people are drinking at the moment just to fit in, not know that she necessarily likes it. And then by extension, um, Cliff would probably also just sit there with a craft beer, even though he's a robot, he won't
I
actually
would say
drink
if
it.
you could.
Yeah, and that's a good one. Rita Farr from Doom Patrol, that's a deep pool. And then I also thought Dick Grayson. I can picture Dick Grayson because he's kind of like I picture him as like a 30-year-old kind of at this point as Nightwing. And so I picture him kind of drinking craft beers as well, just because I picture him kind of our age, in between our age anyways. And so I can see him drinking craft beer too,
Right.
and whatever is harder to get away his repressed memories because he hates Batman so much at a certain point and things like that. So he wants to drink, like if he's drinking beer, he's drinking something that's going to help him get drunk.
Right. Well, that's the thing in like the comic strip I have of Logan. It was an old man Logan. I think it was like January 2019, maybe. And I took a picture of it and I've saved it in my phone because I just find it hilarious. Where Wolvie sits at a bar in New York and asks for, he goes, anything that's Canadian and in a bottle. I know I texted you this earlier.
Yeah.
And the bartender's like, are you sure we have some great local crafts on tap? And he's like, do I look like the kind of guy that likes craft beer? All right, you got a beard. You like beer. Like,
He's wearing
yeah,
flannel most of the time.
right, yeah, you kind of fit the cliche stereotype. And I'm almost like thinking you would really like the stronger flavors. You would really, much. I almost feel like it's more in line with
Yeah.
his personality. He just doesn't realize it. He's so stuck on, like you said, Molson
Which
and lagers,
this kind
and
of
not
makes
the
me
good
think.
lagers.
Yeah, this makes me think that like Beast and Cyclops would also be craft beer drinkers because Beast is like the sophisticated scientist type where he's like, I'm sophisticated. If he's drinking alcohol, it's either something that's like a bourbon or he's drinking like a bourbon barrel aged stout or he's drinking something like that just to kind of like,
Right.
I'm fancy. In my head, I'm thinking
Okay.
like hipsterish.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I feel like we could take any character and be like, okay, they like craft beer, but this is the kind of craft beer that they like. So maybe that needs to be the
You're
episode.
right. So basically, that question has been answered in a way. We could probably go on for days because there's so many heroes, but yeah, those are kind of our answers, Marcos. I appreciate that's actually a really good question. So shout out to Marcos. If you're in the Boise area, go to Loose Screw Brewing. They are one of my favorites right now by far. They have a mashed maniac, which in my head I pretend that they made it after me, Mash. It's not actually factual at all, but we're just gonna go with that. And so yeah, that's where we're at. And one last thing is I don't picture Spider-Man drinking craft beers at all.
Oh, I do. He's
Oh, okay. I
young.
was I was picturing Tom Holland, and in my head, Tom
No,
Holland
I
would drink
still
one,
am.
and he would be like, "Oh God, that's so strong."
Right, but then he could taste something else and I'll be like, oh, Happy, you like that beer? You got to try this beer, Happy. You might really like this beer.
Okay,
It's
that
like,
makes sense actually. Yeah,
see,
you're
I
right.
can
That
twist
makes sense.
any, I feel like I can twist any character. And I can even see
Yeah.
Iris drinking craft beer.
Oh,
But she
Iris
might,
definitely drinks craft beer.
yeah. See, okay, so I'm still sticking with my main are going to be Thor and Scarlet Witch, but mainly Thor because we
I'm
saw him
saying
drink
Ant-Man
craft
and the
beer.
Flash. I'm definitely
All
saying
right,
Ant-Man and the Flash. Those are my two. If I had to choose only two, it's Ant-Man and the Flash.
right. But I think I really could twist it into every single one of them drinking craft
Oh,
beer.
without a question, without question.
So, I mean,
So
just it's too great not to. There's just anybody who
there's
says they
so
don't
many.
like beer, they just haven't had the right beer.
There's so many to choose from, and you're right. You haven't had the right beer at all. And so, if you're thinking of drinking craft beer, get out there, try it, try it, try it.
All right,
Yeah,
I think we've a lot
that's it.
gone past
So,
our time limit.
what what are we next episode? I believe we're talking underrated Marvel characters.
I believe so, or it could just be underrated superheroes. I already have mine picked up
I
and
would say
picked out.
underrated
It is Marvel.
superheroes because, like you said, I know we tend to talk a little more Marvel, but I like the you talk Marvel, I talk DC, and we kind of mesh the brands together. So we'll go next episode. We're going to talk about our underrated superheroes. Uh, if you have any questions, comments, you want something featured on the show, go ahead slide into our Instagram DMs, which you can find us at Hops Geek News. That's where we are on Instagram right now. You can find us there. Slide in those DMs. Myself or Hoppy are more than happy to. We love questions. We love talking, especially talking about beer and comics. Other than that, you can find us Thursdays on Hoppy Hour at Hops News on Facebook, YouTube at Hops News, And also shout out to Lucky, who is our other co-host, Feeling Lucky Pod, which you can catch right now on Sundays. That might be moving to Tuesdays.
Yeah.
But yeah, personally, you can find me at Matthew Tyler on Instagram. That's the best place to find me. Hit me up. Love beer, Legos, comics, all of that stuff. Hoppy, where you be?
I'd be on the Instagrams and the Untapped as the Hoppy Mommy, no spaces. And I post a lot of geek stuff and a lot of beer stuff, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, so that is it. We appreciate you. As always, subscribe, like, whatever. You can find us anywhere that you listen to podcasts, except for Apple for some reason. They're kind of
Like Snow White runs our platform or something. She's scared of apples.
they're
I
in
don't
like
know.
transitional phase. We don't know what's going on with Apple, but you can find us on Podbean. You can find us on Spotify, things like that. And then, as always, YouTube. Wednesdays is when we drop a new episode every single week, and we shall be talking to you soon. Cheers, mates.
Cheers.
This has been a Hops News production. You can find Hops News on all your favorite podcasts and social media platforms at Hops News. Cheers.